So hello, everybody. I am so glad you're here today. We're going to be talking about taking digital actions. So the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to review the two parts of the digital activism training and how it all connects with this final part today, where we're going to be creating our own digital action. We're also going to do an overview of digital actions, just take a look at some successful digital actions, and kind of some ideas for digital actions that you can all take. We're also going to, I hope, discuss traditional journalism. My friend, I don't see him here, so hopefully he will show up. If not, I will just cover that part from my experience, working in the television news journalism, but I won't necessarily have as much for you guys in terms of print. And then we're going to do a digital action case study, and we're going to look at a successful digital action and how it was done. Actually, we're going to look at two, and then we're going to create our own digital action. And everything that we're talking about up until that point will be recorded. Once we get into planning our digital action, we're not going to record that because I really want you guys to feel really open to, discuss ideas and not worry about, that this is going to be recorded and shared later. So this has been a 3-part series. Thank you to everyone who has come to 1, 2, or all 3 of these. In the first part, we talked about how to cultivate a digital community. I felt this was really important because this was at a point in which we were just all starting to have to figure out alternative ways to gather and meet in groups. And we talked about Facebook and Keybase. And then our second part last week was citizen journalism using digital storytelling. And so what we talked about there is just how we can tell our own stories and be our own journalists and press, and use storytelling methods to make these stories compelling so that they'll get shared. And we also, for that, we looked at Twitter and YouTube as digital tools and talked a little bit more about digital tools. And then today is part 3, taking digital actions. We're going to put all of this together. For this, I was originally going to talk about Instagram and Signal a little bit, and I think we might touch on those, but I kind of just want to focus more on the actions themselves than the tools. There are a ton of great resources online for, learning how to use all of these tools. And I really recommend that you, get comfortable and play around with them. And with that being said, don't be intimidated. These are all just tools, but the concepts behind them are all things that you already know how to do. You already know how to tell other people what is important to you, how to, take action and get other people to support you. And so these are just like the same tools that you already have been using by, in-person, conversations or emails, blogs, things that you are used to. These are all the same. They're just a different method of communicating using the internet. And as always, we have technical support available. So if you have any issues, please send technical support a chat. When I brought this up at our meeting on Saturday, somebody asked me to create like an algorithm cheat sheet. And it was kind of interesting for me because what I discovered when I started doing a little research is that the Facebook algorithm has changed recently in 2020. And it's a little bit more complicated to get your message out than it used to be. And I think that's probably true of all the social media platforms. If this is the current algorithm, they rank it by someone who you typically interact with. So the more you interact with a person, the more you're going to see their posts. This is also the type of media in the post. So a post that is just text maybe won't get seen as much as and then, of course, we all know that the biggest factor is the popularity of the post. The more hits that post gets in terms of people engaging with it, the more it's going to get seen. And what an engagement would be is, you know, someone just hitting an emoji, someone commenting on a comment, even within the comments. You know, the more comments that something has, the more you know, popular it is, and that just gets it boosted again and again. So for those of you who aren't familiar with the term algorithm, social media algorithm just means that it's the way that that particular application is coded in order to show you the content. So, you know, they're taking all this huge amount of content and this vast sea of people's posts and deciding what you as an individual are going to see on your wall when you scroll, or, you know, what your feed, whatever your feed is. So it's a way of sorting your posts based on the relevancy to you rather than when it was published. So it's not like you're just going to see whatever someone that you're in any way connected to posted a second ago, and, you know, the next second it's going to be something else. It'll be posted in terms of what, from, you know, the current algorithm's viewpoint, is what you are going to want to read, that it's going to be interesting and engage you. So all social media algorithms really have the same thing in common, and that is that they are looking for a connection. How are you connected to this content in a way that is going to make you engage with it and keep you around? You know, really, it's for all of these companies, what they really want is you to stay on their platform longer. This is what connection in social media is. It's, you know, sharing, rating something, joining the group or whatever it is that you're asking, liking it, reposting it, following the person who posted it or the group that posted it. And all of that means engagement. And so, you know, the way that that happens is we see what people are doing in the community and share with us inside the communities that we're a part of. And if that is compelling, it makes you want to engage with it. It makes other people want to engage with it. And the more they engage, the more we see it. So all of that is to say that when we are going forth and creating digital actions, unlike standing in a busy street corner where you just know that people are going to be driving by and see you, these digital actions have to be shared in order to be seen. And to do that, we start with community, which is why this training started there. And the hope is that by connecting in community, we can support one another and help each other share these things that are important to us. So in our first training day, we created a digital garden group on Facebook and in Keybase. And the difference between those two, Facebook is really public facing. That's where, you know, we want to interface with people. The group that we have there is a private group. So no one can see the posts unless you're actually a member of the group. However, Facebook as a whole, their privacy settings are pretty loose, as we know. They share our information and sell it to make money. And so if there's stuff that you want to discuss with your community that isn't so public facing, then I encourage us to use the Digital Garden Keybase team, which is a little complicated to get into. So if you have a moment while we're still kind of here and have tech support, and you want to get connected to that team, go ahead and do it now. Or a little later in the training. I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to give you time, but I recommend you do it. And you can always email myself or Suburn and ask us to help you get in there. After you join that, then please connect with the other people in the group. Remember, we only see the posts of people that we're connected to. So go ahead and, friend them. We've also, have a, group for our group, the Extinction Rebellion Tucson. So we have a Facebook page that you can follow. That's different than a Facebook group. It's a page, but if you follow that, you'll see the posts, and you can share those. And then when someone in that group shares their content and says, hey, I'm working on this campaign, I'm trying to get people to pay attention to this important information, take the time to help them get that engagement. Don't just scroll past. When you see that someone has posted inside the digital garden, that by joining that group that you've made an agreement that you're going to help everyone within the group get their content out. And by doing that, they have also agreed to get your content out. And if we can all work together and get our content out, then we can help each other, get more activity around these digital actions. Because we can have as many digital actions as we want, but if people don't see them, did they really happen? It's like a tree falling in the forest. You don't hear it. Anyway, so again, repost it to all of your social media places, engage with it. If it says sign a petition, sign the petition. If it says, please join this group, or please, whatever, send a postcard to the senator, do it if you can, or if you don't have time to do that, at least like the post and write a comment on it, like, hey, keep it up, or by the way, did you know X, Y, or Z, whatever it is, or comment on someone else's comment, so that you're helping to boost that post. And when I say that too, I should actually clarify too that I don't mean doing that inside the digital garden, because that is a private group. I think those posts won't be seen by other members. So, once it's shared outside of that group, which we'll communicate more once you guys are in there. So then the next week we talked about citizen journalism and digital storytelling. So, the basic message with citizen journalism is you are the media. You have everything you need to be the press in your pocket. Your phone can record a story, share a story, publish it to all these media outlets. That is really unfathomable, last century. And you can make your content compelling by saying why it matters to you. And even if you aren't creating your own content, but you're just curating and sharing what others have shared, if you take the time, rather than just reposting, to say why it matters to you in a personal way, like, I really care about this, here's why, that's going to get more engagement, because people care about you. That's why they're connected to you. That's why they're your friend. So when you, really say why things are important to you, you're going to get a lot more of engagement on those posts. And then the other factor too that we talked is the way that we get engaged with information. When we just hear facts, a lot of us, our brains shut off, we're back in history class, like 1932, blah, 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 whatever happened. Whereas when we hear a story, it makes us want to listen, it makes us want to know more. So whenever you're sharing content, really think, is this a story? Is this a good story? How would I tell someone this story if we were just sitting having a conversation over a cup of coffee? And lastly, always seek the truth and verify your facts. We are just plummeted with information, and a lot of times there are kind of these information mills that will pump out fake stories. And it's very easy to just see the headline and share it before you've actually even read the article. And very easy to kind of keep perpetuating misinformation. It's important that we, keep in mind that we don't want to perpetuate misinformation. We want to inform everyone. So now today we're going to talk about activism and how we make change. So before this COVID-19 crisis, the more people we got together, the better. So here's an example of an Extinction Rebellion protest with just thousands of people. And look at them all. They're all breathing on each other, standing right next to each other, shoulder to shoulder. A lot of stuff that right now we're not allowed to do. So what do we do? With digital actions, we can have the same sort of impact as we had with these actions that we took in real life. Here we can see there are people with signs, and there's enough of them that you look at the center image, you see there's like a bunch of people, and it's as if they're standing there holding signs next to each other. While I was putting this together, I thought about what kind of actions we were used to taking that now we have to rethink how to take these. So the picture here is of a banner drop we did. We were also having mass meditations, talking about marches, rallies, body blockades, all things that happen in person. So I wanted to talk a little bit about some successful digital action campaigns to get our kind of ideas flowing. And then I came up with some ideas myself, but I really, on this next slide, I'm gonna ask you guys to be ready to kind of talk about some ideas together. So here, some successful digital action campaigns that you might have heard of are Black Lives Matter. That was a movement where, people were really trying to draw attention to some really terrible cases of police violence against young Black men in particular. It's been very successful, successful, at least in the sense of gaining visibility for this problem in our society. The Me Too movement was a hashtag movement that was very successful in illuminating the type of sexual harassment and sexual abuse that was just so prevalent in really, in particular in high profile situations politically and in the entertainment industry, but just all kinds of people came out to say, tell their stories of what had happened. And that was like a storytelling kind of campaign. And then I don't know if you guys remember the ASL Ice Bucket Challenge a few years ago. And my husband actually has a really good friend who recently passed away of ASL. And so this was really powerful for him. At that time, before this campaign, a lot of people had never heard of it. And so it was kind of this really rare, kind of weird, unheard of disease, except maybe Stephen Hawking would be kind of like the high profile person that maybe people knew about. But it was a very successful little social media thing. It was fun. And we'll talk about it a little bit more later. Then another one was a video campaign called It Gets Better. And this was a lot of high profile celebrities or just people who were living openly gay lives, filming themselves talking about how it gets better and in order to help with the suicide rate of young LGBT community members. And that was just like really a powerful way to kind of reach out and get visibility for a problem in our society. And then the last one is one that Neil had just sent me. and that's a greenergoogle.com. This was set up on April Fool's Day by Extinction Rebellion. And we will talk about that one a little bit more later, but basically it's a spoof of a announcement by the CEO of Google that they're going to stop funding climate change deniers. So working with traditional media, you know, even though we all sort of have this access to media in our pocket in terms of, you know, being able to publish on social media, the traditional media outlets still have a power. And you know, people are still reading the news. People still see the news as an authority subject. And so it's really important that we continue to work with our traditional media outlets. I think we have an op-ed, a little bit of an op-ed campaign going on for the TEP rate hike case. And also, once we're getting closer to these really big initiatives, we can send press releases. I don't think Joe is on the call with us. Hello? Is anyone? Joe, do you see anyone? Yeah, I don't see him. So when I talked to Joe about this briefly before last week's training, what he said, and I thought was really a great point, is to connect with your local journalists ahead of time and not just send cold call press releases to everyone. So figure out who's writing these stories or telling these stories about the type of things that we're doing, and contact them and say, hi, I'm part of this organization. We're in the middle of doing this campaign. Would you be the right person to talk to? You know, just kind of, you know, get a back and forth discussion first so they know who you are. And then when you send them your information, they're much more likely to actually read it versus, you know, because they're getting so much kind of cold call information all the time. So that's a really a fun little tidbit for us to consider. And then from the TV news perspective, I know that some of the stations actually have a place you can upload your own video content to. And it's, you know, they're very open to stories too. I don't know how it's going to continue to work with everyone sort of shut in at home. So we'll see. But that's what I have to say about the traditional media stuff. So, okay, so then for the digital action case study, I just wanted to talk a little bit about this ice bucket challenge because I thought, you know, the hashtag thing is just a way to categorize something, and it can tell a story, but this is just so fun, you know, to see people pouring buckets of ice on their heads was like very novel, and it was, and then, you know, of course, it was just so successful in getting it out. And so the things that I kind of as why this was such a successful campaign is that, first of all, it was just really fun. Like, it's not really, I don't know, fun to have ice dumped over your head, but to watch someone do that is pretty funny. And then it also, after every video, the person who had done it would then challenge someone else to do it. So it had that effect of being shared, and then the next person would challenge the next person. So it really rolled for quite a while, and you had celebrities doing it and challenging each other, and then, you know, it really took off. And it raised $150, and, you know, it basically, you know, raised a lot of awareness. about this pretty unknown disease. And then the second case study I wanted to do was on this greenergoogle.com. So this is basically was a spoof company announcement by Google, pretending that they were announcing their plans to stop funding climate change deniers. And they even put a little picture of the CEO, and you know, they used all of the Google stuff. So hold on a second, I'm gonna share. So you can get another look at it. So when you look at this, it really looks like you're inside Google. They even have, you know, the Google logo here. If you click on it, nothing actually happens. But it's pretty clever. I don't know. The keyword doesn't really do anything either. So these are just kind of fake links to make it look more like a real Google page. And if you look at the top, it says sign up here to join Extinction Rebellion's digital protest group. So, you know, anyone really looking closely at this would be able to quickly tell that this was a spoof. However, it was done so well that people internal to Google thought that this was a real Google page. And it went viral within Google itself. And then afterwards, people inside Google said, oh, that was funny. And, you know, that would be nice if this was actually true. And so it was just kind of a fun way to kind of nudge Google a little bit and give them an idea of how they could, you know, support the thing that makes this great is it's really convincing. They actually just use Google's own imagery, a picture of their CEO. They use the company tone, like they really nail it. So it feels like it's actually an internal, you know, Google document. It's funny because, you know, it's published on April Fool's Day, and, you know, they even talk about April Fool's in the beginning, but as if they're Google talking about April Fool's Day. And it makes these good humored demands. And, you know, it was very visible and culminates in action. So the site actually links to an Extinction Rebellion sign up page if you click on the link at the top. So that's great because then it's actually, you know, garnering even more action.